Have you ever noticed that one person can walk into a room and the energy can totally change? The truth is, we all carry an energy with us all the time. And the second that we realize that we can shift and adjust this energy, our world transforms. Hi, I'm Janae Moss. I study sport and performance psychology and dream studies. I love this because I've used sport and performance psychology in business, in leadership, in my personal life, and community work, and like I said, especially for families. A few years ago, I found out that I was losing my central vision. This is obviously something that rocked my world and really affected me. But what I realized is that I could take all the information I was learning from performance psychology and how to show up every day, even under challenging circumstances, and I could use these tools in my everyday life. So I began doing that. I developed a framework called the Vision Framework, and today I'm going to talk about V, which is the first pillar in my Vision Framework. V stands for vibrant. Vibrant to me is how we show up into the world. It's about the energy that we carry. It's about the effect that we have on other people around us. And in my role as mother, especially, I'm going to talk about today, it had a huge effect on my family, the way that I showed up and the energy that I carried. I remember once I was getting my kids ready to go to an activity that actually they were excited about and I was excited about. But by the time we got in the car, when the shoes were lost and somebody had had a breakdown and another kid was hungry or another one hadn't had their nap, whatever it was, we got into the car and I remember being so frustrated and even angry. And the kids, they were kind of reacting from me and my energy, and I was reacting off of them. And we got to our event, and I remember I sat down and I got clear with myself for just a minute, and I realized I don't want the kids to look back at this memory and think about this being a stressful, annoying, not fun experience when the whole point of this experience was to have fun. I'm sure this happened more than once, but the lesson is true. So I started realizing I wanted to get more clear and more aware about the energy that I show up with as a mom, because it has an effect on the whole family. Now, I don't want this to be a source of shame, right? Because I think as parents, it's very easy to think, geez, if I could have only held it together better myself, then the whole family would be okay. I mean, that the reality of that is that that's not the case. You can show up with great energy and your kids just might be tired or hungry or whatever, and it's going to happen. But if you are aware as the parent, how you show up, or in work environment or whatever environment you're in, and you can notice what energy you're bringing to the room, then you can tweak things if you need to, and be the kind of person that supports and lightens and not kind of destroys the energy in a room. So I wanted to talk for a second about a study that was done, and I don't want to misquote where this study came from because it is so amazing. And I'm going to get out my trusty glasses because, as I said, I struggle with my vision, so these help a tiny bit. But it was a study done by the National Library of Medicine. And they took a bunch of toddlers and moms and they hooked up their brains so that they could see kind of what was happening when the parents were connecting with the toddlers. The thing that they found was when the mom was, I think it was moms that they took, not dads in this particular study, but of course it would work for moms or dads. But the study showed that when they were playing, everything in their brain lightened up and was kind of connecting, especially when they were joyfully engaged. So when they were playing and having fun, that had a react on the toddler, and the toddler had a reaction or reacted with the mom, so vice versa. It mostly lightened up in the emotional regulation part of the brain, and that shows empathy and connection. So what's cool is that the toddlers that were a little bit older actually showed even more connectivity, which is cool. It shows us that as our kids age a little bit, that connection and the transfer of energy gets even stronger. The bond gets stronger. I love to think about this because as we're trying to show up, in the best way that we can and the energy that we want to in our home, especially, there is value with play. I think a lot of times when we get older, there's some kind of unsaid rule that, you just don't play as much when you're an adult. But really, I mean, this science is showing that if we remember to pull that side out of us and we play, it has an effect on our kids' emotional regulation and our connection with them. So I really loved this study. So some of the ways that you can build the energy in your family, there's a lot of ways, but some of them that I'm going to share today is in the morning to create a sort of morning warm-up. Now, because my research and my schooling a lot is in sport and performance psychology, I can't help but think of things through the lens of teamwork and sports. So with your family, or with yourself, even if you live on your own, to wake up and think about your morning as a warm-up session really can be helpful. What kind of intention do you want to set for the day? With the kids, it's fun. I remember driving them to school every day and listening to music that made us laugh together, or telling a funny story, or talking about what they're excited about for the day. Ways that you can kind of bond and really support one another, and the way that you show up in a vibrant light into whatever you are going to start with the day. Another fun thing I like to do in my family that I believe does raise the energy vibration or the vibrancy of the family is to hang up pictures around the house that are from some of your most valuable, fun memories that you've experienced together. That doesn't mean everything went right, right? It doesn't mean that if you went to the zoo that nobody had a breakdown or nobody cried or nobody pooped their pants. It just means that overall you had a fun memory that you wanted to print and to put up so that people, when they look around the house, they can remember these fun memories, and the connection and that vibrant energy is more able to stay. Another thing that is important in sport and performance psychology is that even the best athletes that work the very hardest have to take time to recharge. So, it doesn't matter who you are, after you play a hard game, to rest and recharge and relax is part of the workout. So whether that be after school or at night or whenever your family can relax, it's important to do that and to not feel guilty for doing that. Now, a lot of these things that I've mentioned involve the family, but really, as we're talking about today, it starts with us. So what are some things that you can do to recharge and to show up in a vibrant way? The pressures of parenting are big. There's weight on us that our kids could never understand, and that's okay. But you're holding a lot of things that your kids aren't actually going to understand, that you need to manage. One way, or some ways that help me with that, I'm going to share just a few and then give you a challenge. One thing that helps me is always writing in the morning. I think it's really important to kind of brain dump or do my morning pages and get out those things that I'm stressed about, worried about, excited about, whatever it is, so that it's kind of like clearing the cache. It's closing the tabs on the computer so that when I start out the day, I feel a little bit more clear. Another thing is music. Music has an enormous influence on my mood and my energy. I really use it for anything. If I'm going to speak, then I'll get kind of a pump up music or song that gets my energy going, because if I'm going to stand in front of a crowd, a group, I don't want to be the most non-energetic person in the room. I need to bring some energy. So I will use music in that way. As well as if I feel like I really want to be reflective and calm, then I will put on music that helps me get into that space. So music is a very powerful tool that we can use to help us with our energy, whatever that needs to be. Another thing that I like to do, let's see, I wrote a bunch, is even nature always, I've mentioned that already before, but maybe even a walking meditation. So if you get outside and just walk for a minute, that can be a way to clear your mind and to kind of release energy inside of you that is maybe causing anxiety or stress, and to kind of reset. My daughter, Kinley, actually has an Instagram called Kinley's Lane, and it's her middle name, Kinley's Lane. And she shares a lot of grounding tools to help bring back your calm and your energy when you're kind of in a place where you're being maybe feeling reactive to situations around you. You can go check that out. It's a cool tool. She shares new challenges every single week of the whole year, and it's free. So the challenge, though, that I want to leave with you in adjusting the energy dial for your life and to have an influence on your family is to write your top 10 joys, is what I call it. So after I had let's see, was it my fourth and fifth baby girls, I had postpartum. And I remember feeling so depressed and tired and all of these things that were not naturally how I felt most of the time. And I didn't even realize it was postpartum at the time. But it got to the point where it was hard for me to get out of bed. And I remember thinking, I have all of these kids around, everybody needs me. They're hungry, their diapers need to be changed, they need to get to school, and I cannot get the energy to even stand up. And I remember one day I just kind of rolled over in my bed and looked at the side table next to my bed, and there was a notepad inside, and I kind of reached over and I pulled it out, and there was a pen, and I just started thinking, I need to remember what brings me energy, what gives me zest for life. And so I started writing down things that I love that bring me energy. I got to 10 and I kept that in my side table next to my bed. And on the days, well, it's actually every day at that point, but when I couldn't get out of bed, I would reach for it and I would say, okay, number 1 and number 4. They weren't in order, but I was like, okay, I'm going to go for a drive and I'm going to call a friend. Those were 2 of my things. It's like friends and family connection and going out and driving. And the next day, it might be like, oh, I don't feel like talking to anybody, but I think music and maybe trying to read a book for a minute. I really think that that will help me. And so I would do number 2 and 6 or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact numbers. So for you and for your resilience and your vibrancy, I would suggest to do this and to remind you that you are the best parent for your kids, that you are doing the best job that you can, and that's not going to be perfect, but that's normal. And if you can be aware of the places that you're strong and the places that you want to become stronger, you'll be able to show up with a more vibrant spirit, and it will make it a more resilient and joyful place in your home, which is what we're going for. Also, the kids will feel that and be able to try to regulate their emotions because they're feeling some peace and joy in the house. I feel like I always have to give disclaimer because I am not one of those people that believes in saying my home is perfect or I do it perfectly, because I don't. That's the reality. And the reality is that I tried my best to show up in the way that I could at the time. I have plenty of mistakes, and but I have learned, if I've done anything well, it's that I've learned that there are tools, and when I can integrate them into my days, I enjoy my role and my chosen job as a mom even more. And I enjoy it more. I enjoy it when I choose it. I enjoy it when I know how I'm going to show up. And I enjoy it when I'm being intentional about the things that bring me happiness. So for now, thanks for joining. And if you have anything specific that you want to talk about, let me know. And I'll see you next time.